all these car manufacturers were claiming stuff, and then the emissions were proven to be way out, like totally wrong. Basically, they had a program within the ECU which detected when the car was being on a test situation, which dropped all the revs down, and all the CO2 emissions, everything like that. Tricked it, and basically, then once the car drove out, the emissions were like way through the roof. So loads of folk have been, manufacturers have been caught out, and loads of people have been claiming back from their cars. The emission scandal. It's the biggest thing to break ever. What about the biggest thing to break in golf, but not quite yet, but it is being hinted at? CT testing. That's core testing for your drivers and your 3 woods and things like that. This is the biggest scandal yet that's going to be probably dropping on a magazine or golf channel somewhere at some point. All to do with when the club gets made and tested, and when you're hitting it from the factory, the face is 0.83 core legal, okay? So what happened basically was the RNA and the USGA got together and said, what are we going to be doing with these like long drivers and stuff? I know what we'll do. We'll do random testing of the faces. We've got a CT test, and we'll pick some heads out the tour vans, do some tests on them, make sure they're 0.83 core legal. So they did that, and to the point, most of them all, passed. But then some bright spark in the RNA or USGA said, hang on, what about like in-play drivers that the tour pros have been battering balls off the face constantly, right out the middle? Surely, you would think that if you hit 500, 600 balls out your driver face, out the middle, smashing at the distance that these pros do, that the metal may in fact weaken slightly on the face, and then suddenly be more springy, and suddenly the face would be accelerating the ball quicker off it than the 0.83. Aha, said the RNA and USGA. What we'll start doing is randomly pulling clubs out of tour players' backs then on the range and saying, your club's away for a CT test. And they are catching players out through no fault of the player. Look, they've put that club in the bag. Next thing they know, they're getting told that the face is hot. What do we mean by hot? Well, it's like hotter than 0.83, which is the core legal limit. Does it make any difference? They reckon it's 5 yards, if that. You and me, no, it does not make any difference whatsoever. Maybe it sounds a bit different, but no, not really. So, what does this mean then? Well, it means that you and me, even you and me, could be paying £500 for a driver. When we pick it up off the shelf and take it out that shop after paying the 500 quid, we hit the first round, second round, third round, goodness knows how many rounds it takes, but eventually that driver will go hot or go illegal. So we've spent all that money, and our face is now non-conforming hot, right? We're not going to get a CT test though, like the pros do. So how are we going to know that our driver is now illegal? Well, answer is we don't. Therefore, your driver's on the conforming list. Therefore, you're still going to have your driver in the bag. But there is a little problem for top flight amateurs. We're talking like the international level amateur, who gets their clubs tested because maybe they've qualified for the Open, say, just for example. They pull the driver, I'm sorry there, your driver's illegal. It's way above 0.83 core. Oof, he says, hang on a minute, I just paid £500 for that driver 3 or 4 months back. Is it going to go like the emission scandal? I mean, surely you would think that a driver face should hold its integrity over a period of time. Certainly a long time. You know, what's the shelf life of a driver? Well, some people play drivers that are 10, 12 years old. Other people change their drivers quite regular. So what I'm saying to you is, how the heck can the R&A and the USGA have like a core limit when really, the likes of you and me could, and then when you think about range balls, if you are a player who goes to the range in the winter and hits range balls with a driver, how fast are they going to make that face go extra springy? Now they're saying that it's an actual thing, it does happen. It's not just with one manufacturer. They've all been caught out, a bit like the emission scandal. So what's the answer? Do you make your faces like a lot like less springy, so they're more, you know, rigid? Or do you continue down the path of distance is king and like max out your drivers to the legal limit, and then the slightest little fluctuation makes it go illegal? Well, is it going to go like the emission scandal? Are folk going to start claiming back for drivers because they've had a CT test and they've paid all that money? Suddenly they had a legal driver through no fault of their own because they hit it out the middle. They reckon if you hit it out the middle constantly, the surrounding area weakens and then you get that spring effect. Comment below. Do you care? Am I off my rocker? Should I quit YouTube? Or should I keep going? Or should I just like pack it in? I keep saying to myself, I'm not going to do that because the channels offer the ad revenue going to Macmillan, Help the Heroes and Shelter UK. So for what it's worth, I'm hanging on in there. But I'm down to my last fingernails here. So a subscribe would really help the channel. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it of some interest. And I think it is of interest if you've paid all that money for a driver. And on a sub note, if you buy an older driver, like a couple of years old, who's had it before you, etc., how do you know that that driver's still core legal to use? Over to you, R&A and USGA.